The morning sun cast long shadows through the tall windows of the Harris County Courthouse in Houston, Texas. It was 8:45 a.m., and the marble hallways buzzed with activity. Lawyers in pressed suits hurried past with briefcases, their shoes clicking against the polished floor. The scent of coffee and paper mingled with the courthouse's old wooden aroma, creating a blend of modern energy and historical gravitas. Judge Michael Bennett sat in his chambers, meticulously reviewing the day's docket. At 62, he had earned a reputation as one of the county's strictest judges, his rulings as sharp as his perfectly combed silver hair. His black robe, always without a wrinkle, was a symbol of his unwavering belief in discipline. He often proclaimed, "A courtroom without order is like a ship without a captain." His frown deepened as he scanned the first case, a complex business dispute between a small local company and a large corporation. Such cases cluttered his courtroom with lawyers and drained time he valued for other pressing matters. Across town, Sarah Richardson faced an unexpected challenge. At 45, she had spent 2 decades building a stellar legal career through relentless hard work. Her office walls bore diplomas from prestigious universities and awards celebrating her achievements. Yet, that morning, none of it mattered. "Ms. Richardson," her assistant called out, rushing into the office. "We've got an emergency with the Johnson case. The single mother we're helping pro bono is outside, crying. Her landlord is trying to evict her today, even though we filed the stay order." Sarah glanced at her watch. 8:50 a.m. Her big case in Judge Bennett's courtroom was scheduled for 9 a.m., and she knew his reputation for punctuality. But as she saw the distressed young mother in the waiting room holding a baby, Sarah made her decision. "Give me 10 minutes with her," she told her assistant. "Call the court and let them know I might be a few minutes late." The assistant nodded hesitantly, aware of Judge Bennett's strictness. He had once fined a lawyer $1,000 for being 3 minutes late, famously declaring, "Punctuality is the respect we owe to others' time." Sarah spent the next 15 minutes making urgent calls, her calm demeanor easing the young mother's panic. This was why Sarah had become a lawyer, to stand up for those who couldn't afford justice. By 9:05 a.m., Sarah was rushing into the courthouse, arms full of case files. Her navy blue suit and pearl necklace still looked immaculate, but she knew being late in Judge Bennett's courtroom was a bad start to the day. The courthouse regulars who knew Sarah watched her dash through the halls. Some wanted to warn her about Judge Bennett's mood, but she moved too quickly, heels clicking against the polished floor. Outside courtroom 304, Sarah heard his unmistakable voice. "The court waits for no one." Straightening her spine, she pushed open the heavy wooden doors. The courtroom buzzed with quiet energy. 30 people filled the gallery, and at the defendant's table, Sarah's client, James Chen, sat nervously. Opposing counsel, a team of 3 corporate lawyers, smirked as Sarah entered. Judge Bennett's steel-gray eyes narrowed. The clock read 9:07 a.m. "Miss Richardson," Judge Bennett's voice sliced through the silence like a knife. "You are exactly 7 minutes late to my courtroom. Care to explain why your time is more valuable than the court's?" Sarah stepped forward, her posture unwavering. "Your Honor, I sincerely apologize for my tardiness. I had an emergency pro bono client this morning, a single mother facing immediate wrongful eviction." "Miss Richardson," Judge Bennett interrupted, his tone icy. "I don't recall asking for a story about your other clients. This is my courtroom, and we start at 9 a.m. sharp." His gavel tapped against the sound block. "Not 9:07, not 9:05, 9. The gallery shifted uncomfortably. Even the corporate lawyers exchanged amused glances. At the defendant's table, James Chen's confidence faltered. Watching his lawyer face the judge's wrath, he wondered if he'd made a mistake. "Your Honor," Sarah began again, her voice steady. "I understand the importance of punctuality and take full responsibility for my lateness. However, as officers of the court, we sometimes face emergent—" "That's enough," Judge Bennett cut her off. "I'm holding you in contempt. The fine is $500, payable by end of day." Gasps rippled through the room. Even the court reporter hesitated. Sarah maintained her composure, though the fine stung. "For the record, Your Honor," she said firmly, ensuring her words were captured, "I would like to state that I was delayed due to preventing an illegal eviction of a single mother with an infant, fulfilling my professional obligation." Judge Bennett's jaw tightened. "Miss Richardson," he said, his fingers gripping the gavel, "one more word about this, and I'll double the fine. Shall we proceed with today's case, or would you like to continue wasting the court's time?" Judge Bennett's voice rang through the courtroom, sharp and unyielding. Sarah Richardson took her place at the defense table beside her nervous client, James Chen. She opened her briefcase with steady hands, removing her meticulously prepared documents. The corporate lawyers across the room exchanged smug glances, likely thinking the morning's events had thrown her off. What they didn't know was that Sarah Richardson was no stranger to adversity. Throughout her career, she had faced far worse than an irritable judge. She had broken barriers, fought systemic biases, and earned a reputation as one of the sharpest attorneys in Texas. A contempt fine, no matter how unjust, wasn't about to derail her focus. As she organized her papers, Sarah could feel Judge Bennett's critical gaze tracking her every movement. The morning had started on a sour note, but Sarah knew the real battle was only beginning. What no one in the courtroom realized was that this day would leave an indelible mark, challenging long-held assumptions and prejudices, not just for Judge Bennett, but for everyone present. The morning sun climbed higher as the case commenced in courtroom 304. Sarah Richardson stood confidently at the podium, her presence commanding despite the judge's earlier hostility. James Chen, her client, watched anxiously as she prepared to speak. "Your Honor," Sarah began, her voice steady and professional, "my client's small electronics repair business has been a cornerstone of this community for over 15 years. The plaintiffs claim that we violated their patent is entirely baseless, as we can demonstrate with clear evidence." Judge Bennett leaned back, his expression skeptical. "Proceed, Ms. Richardson," he said, his tone laced with disinterest. Sarah launched into her defense, carefully presenting dates and documents, but just 2 minutes in, Judge Bennett interrupted. "Ms. Richardson, get to the point. We don't have all day for lengthy explanations." Sarah paused, taking a deep breath. She noted how he hadn't interrupted the corporate lawyers during their extensive 20-minute opening statement. "Your Honor," she replied evenly, "I'm establishing the timeline that proves my client's innocence. If I may continue." "Stick to the relevant facts," Judge Bennett cut her off, waving his hand dismissively. In the gallery, a group of law students furiously took notes, sensing that something about the judge's demeanor wasn't right. Sarah pressed on, undeterred. She pulled out a key document and approached the bench. "This patent documentation clearly shows that my client's repair method was independently developed 3 years before the plaintiffs filed their patent," she explained. The corporate lawyers sprang to their feet. "Objection, Your Honor. This evidence wasn't included in the initial discovery." Sarah turned to face them. "If you'll check Exhibit C, page 47, you'll find that this document was indeed included. I personally delivered it to your office 2 months ago." Before the corporate lawyers could respond, Judge Bennett interjected. "Ms. Richardson, in my courtroom, we do not argue with opposing counsel." "Your Honor," Sarah said respectfully, "I'm not arguing. I'm merely correcting a factual error in their objection." James Chen watched the exchange with growing concern. He had poured his life savings into his business, and now it seemed even the judge was against him. Yet, as he observed Sarah's calm and precise handling of each interruption, he began to feel a glimmer of hope. Sarah proceeded to present their expert witness, Dr. Thomas Jean, a renowned electronics engineer. As Dr. Jean delved into the technical nuances differentiating the two repair methods, Judge Bennett's interruptions grew more frequent. "Ms. Richardson," the judge snapped, "is all this technical detail really necessary?" "Yes, Your Honor," Sarah replied, her patience unyielding. "The technical details are the cornerstone of this case. They unequivocally prove my client's repair method is fundamentally different from the plaintiff's patent." The morning wore on as Sarah meticulously built her defense. Despite the judge's clear bias and constant interruptions, her professionalism never faltered. She presented her arguments with clarity, her evidence with precision, and her demeanor with grace. The corporate lawyers, initially confident of an easy win, began to shift uncomfortably. Sarah was unraveling their case thread by thread. During the recess, one junior corporate lawyer whispered to his colleague, "She's good. Really good. Why haven't I heard of her before?" The senior attorney nearby smirked knowingly, but remained silent. He recognized Sarah's name and reputation, but decided to let the younger lawyers discover the truth for themselves. As the morning session concluded, Sarah had presented the bulk of her defense. Her unflappable composure had started to make an impression on the courtroom, though Judge Bennett remained oblivious to the growing scrutiny of his behavior. By the end of the day, the judge, and everyone else, would confront a revelation that would change the dynamics of this courtroom forever. Sarah sat on a bench in the hallway, reviewing her papers for the afternoon session. Despite the unfair treatment she had received that morning, her focus never wavered. Judge Bennett, watching her from his chamber's window, found his thoughts drifting back to advice from his early days as a lawyer. His mentor, an old judge, had once told him, "A good judge listens more than he speaks. A great judge knows when to admit he's wrong." Glancing at his watch, Judge Bennett realized the afternoon session would begin in 10 minutes. He faced a pivotal choice: continue as though nothing had happened, upholding his pride, or admit his mistakes publicly, a path few judges dared to take. He thought about the young lawyers present that morning, observing his behavior. What lesson had he taught them? What kind of example had he set? Resolute, Judge Bennett pressed the intercom button. "Susan, when court resumes, I'll need to make a statement before we continue with the case." "Yes, Your Honor," Susan replied. "Should I note this in the schedule?" "Yes," he said firmly. "And Susan, ensure the court reporter is ready. What I have to say must be on the record." He straightened his robe and glanced in the mirror. The face staring back seemed older, wearier, but also wiser. He had one final task before stepping back into the courtroom. Picking up the phone, he called the court clerk. "Please cancel the contempt fine for Ms. Richardson and prepare paperwork for a formal apology to be entered into the court record." At exactly 1:30 p.m., the bailiff's voice rang out in courtroom 304. "All rise." The court is now in session, the Honorable Judge Michael Bennett presiding. The afternoon crowd was larger than expected. Word of the morning's events had spread, drawing lawyers and clerks eager to witness what would happen next. The tension was palpable as Judge Bennett took his seat. Sarah Richardson sat at the defense table, her posture flawless, her expression neutral. Her client, James Chen, noticed something different. A quiet confidence radiated from her. Judge Bennett cleared his throat, adjusting his microphone. Then, in an unusual move, he removed his reading glasses to look directly at everyone in the courtroom. "Before we proceed with today's case, I have an important matter to address." The room fell silent. Sarah's expression remained composed, though her curiosity was evident. Even the corporate lawyers shifted uneasily in their seats. "Ms. Richardson, would you please stand?" Judge Bennett asked. Sarah stood gracefully, her presence commanding. "This morning," Judge Bennett began, "I treated you with disrespect. I interrupted your arguments, dismissed your explanations, and fined you for being briefly late while assisting a client in crisis." His voice carried the weight of genuine remorse. "I have since learned that you are not only the newly elected president of the Texas Bar Association, but also one of the most respected legal minds in our state. However," he added, raising a hand, "that is not why I am making this statement." The courtroom remained silent, save for the sound of pens furiously scribbling notes. "I am making this statement because no attorney, regardless of their position or achievements, should be treated the way I treated you. My behavior reflected unconscious biases that have no place in this courtroom or our justice system." He lifted a document from the bench. I am officially rescinding the contempt fine and entering a formal apology into the court record." Turning to Sarah, he continued, "Ms. Richardson, your reputation for grace under pressure is well earned. Despite my unwarranted behavior, you maintained absolute professionalism." The corporate lawyers, once smug, now stared intently at their table. In the gallery, law students scribbled feverishly, sensing they were witnessing a historic moment. "Your Honor," Sarah said, her voice clear and dignified, "I accept your apology. If I may, I'd like to say something." Judge Bennett nodded. "Please do." "This moment is why I love the law," Sarah said, addressing the courtroom. "It's not about winning or losing. It's about our capacity to acknowledge mistakes, learn from them, and strive to do better. What Your Honor has done today demonstrates remarkable courage and integrity." A murmur of agreement rippled through the gallery. Judge Bennett felt a weight lift from his shoulders as he realized this moment would be remembered not as a stain, but as a turning point. "Thank you, Ms. Richardson," he said. "Now, would you like to resume your presentation of evidence without interruption this time?" A small smile touched his lips. "Yes, Your Honor," Sarah replied, picking up her notes. "And if I may suggest, what just happened here might be more important than any evidence I could present." James Chen watched in awe. In his 15 years of business, he had never seen anything like it. This wasn't just about his case anymore. It was about change, fairness, and humanity. As Sarah resumed her presentation, the sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow over the room. Justice, for the first time that day, felt truly present.